Everyone out there, my byline is J.D. Biersdorfer, but you can call me Jude. That's what most people do. I'm the author of iPad, the Missing Manual, which these fine folks at O'Reilly Media publish, and I've also written iPod, the Missing Manual, and a few other titles. So have been doing some of this computer writing for a while. But today we're here to talk about the iPad, specifically all the really fun ways it can entertain you. So let me just start some screen sharing here. And we're going to talk about the books and music and all of that stuff, sort of in an overview mode, not super technical. A lot of you may have just bought an iPad. I think about 58% of you already have one. Some people are maybe on the fence. Maybe you're waiting for the next edition to come out with supposedly new features. So we will take a look at all of these exciting things. Let me just get started. But let's start with books. The iBooks feature has been getting a lot of press, mainly because it sort of stole some of the thunder from the Amazon Kindle and the Barnes & Noble Reader, a whole bunch of those different e-readers out there. So we will take a look at the iBooks thing, which recently got updated, the application itself. And this is some stuff that is not even in the current edition of the book. I'm going to be putting a reprint update in there because they did modify the application a little bit. But as you can see here, hopefully you can see the screenshot of the book here. When you go into an iBooks, any iBook title that you open, you can look at it in portrait view, or you can look at it in the landscape view. This happens to be the sort of up and down portrait view. But the thing with a lot of iBook readers, ebook readers, is the font size. People love it because you can make the fonts go up and down and adjust them to your own eyes. And the way you do that on the iPad is to tap that little set of little a, big A there up in the top corner. And when you do that, you get this drop-down box that has the two font sizes. You can tap the little a if you want to go down, or you can tap the big A if you want to increase the point size of that font. One of the new things that is in this box that Apple added with a little sneaky iBook update they put in there was the ability to turn the background sepia-colored. Now, a lot of people don't particularly like the high contrast of black and white, find it sort of eye strain inducing after long periods of reading, and so when you turn the sepia thing on, it gives this sort of little nice brownish background that some people may find a little bit easier on the eyes. Some people may prefer the white. It's all up to you. That's one of the great things about computers is it's all about choice. So this is the way that you can make the point size different. If you wanted to change the actual font of the book, say you wanted something that's maybe a little more sans serif, you find that easier to read, if you tap that fonts button, you can see all of the choices that Apple has given you to change the font. And a lot of these are really classical typefaces, some of them I think dating back to the sort of invention of movable type or just after it. And then there's Verdana, which is a fairly modern face. So you can change your type that way. It will just automatically reflow if it's an iBook. And then if you want to adjust the screen brightness, tap the little brightness icon. Looks like a little sun up there. And here you can use your finger to move the slider, make it brighter or less bright, depending on the lighting conditions that you're reading in. Sometimes if you're outdoors, you're reading, on a park bench at lunch, maybe you need to adjust that screen brightness as opposed to when you're inside, so you can do that there. There is also a new thing that they added in the iBooks update that was not in the original release of iBooks, the application, and that is in the very top corner there's a little bookmark icon. And in the earlier version you had to sort of select some type and then tap it and mark it the bookmark there. Here you can just tap this little bookmark icon and it puts a little sort of red bookmark right in your corner there, and that way you can mark your page without having to go in and do a lot of fiddling. So that's actually a nice addition that they put into the update of the program, much less fussy to just mark your place and move on. So when you have something bookmarked, or when you wanted to, the old-fashioned way of bookmarking here, you can select type in there. When you select something just by tapping and then you get the selection field, you get these options here to copy the text, look it up in the dictionary, highlight it because you want to refer to this passage later, put a note in, which is new, and then also search for instances of this phrase within the book, or search even on Google and Wikipedia. So when you do that, This is the, let me go back here, this is the note function. Say you wanted to do the electronic equivalent of marking something in the margins of the page that you want to look up later. Just tap note, and it gives you this nice little electronic sticky note. And you can type in what you wanted to refer to. When you tap that note to close it, you can see that it'll pop out here on the margin, just as if you had a little tiny Post-it or something, and it shows the highlighted area that you put on there. So that is something that's also new in the update that they did to the iBooks app, which is really great, especially if you're a very interactive reader and you want to sort of have a conversation with yourself about what you're reading. You can do it very easily there in the margins. So this is the bookmarks page. When you go back at the very top of the page, there's a little table of contents icon. It's not visible on this particular screen, but it just looks like the three little lines. When you tap on that, it takes you to the table of contents, which shows you all of the chapters in the book, and then it also has all the bookmarks that you marked or notes that you've put into the text. And here you can see them in display and jump right to them. You just tap on that particular line. So that's also a pretty convenient way to help you read. This is the table of contents itself here I was talking about. With you just tap here to go to that particular chapter header. And here, if you wanted to look up something in the dictionary or search for it, all you have to do is highlight it in the text. Again, this little pop-up menu bar shows up. And then you can tap the dictionary. It'll show you the definition of that word, which can be very handy, especially if you're reading a lot of the public domain books that were written in the 19th century and may have some arcane language. I find the dictionary really helpful for looking up names of obscure holidays and things. And then if you wanted to search for this word within the text, all the instances of it, you would tap the search button back there, and it shows you all the places it appeared. Apparently Sherlock Holmes had a lot of mantelpiece action here. But then you can see down at the bottom there's two little buttons, Search Google and Search Wikipedia, and that will take you back out to the web if you wanted to do some further investigation of this particular word or phrase. And then if you wanted to buy new books, now this is a lot of people may think that the only way that you can get iBooks is to just download them from Apple's iBookstore, which is here on this slide. That's not entirely true. It's probably the easiest way to get books because you're doing it all right there on the iPad. But the iPad actually can do a number of different ebook formats. Obviously iBook, Apple's preferred one. EPUB, which is a very flexible one that works with reflowable books. A lot of the online bookstores are using EPUB. It can read PDFs, which are nice if you really want to have the original typography and photography as it appeared. And then if you've got any of the specialized bookstore apps from, say, Amazon's Kindle app or the Barnes & Noble app, you can read books from those through those particular apps. But probably the easiest way to get a book, as I said, is just download it from the iBookstore, which anytime you have the iBooks app open, there's always a little button at the top that will take you to your library or to the iBookstore so you can buy more stuff. And so here, this is the iBookstore storefront, and it's just like buying anything else on iTunes. You can tap a title to check it out. In most cases, you could download a sample chapter to see if it's something you really want to pay money for. They also have a wide selection of free books that you can find in the free books area. Most of these are the 19th century public domain stuff, which is all great literature and has the extra bonus of being free. And then you can also go to the web. There are a few ebook websites specializing. Let me pop over to Safari here so we can see that. Google Books is one of them. As you may have been following the news, Google's been doing this big digitization project of really ancient books and trying to get them out there for the public. They have a very nice book storefront, and you can see a lot of the stuff you can't download, but some of it you can. And when you do find a book that's downloadable, you're going over the previews here, it'll say you can download it in full. A lot of the limited preview stuff you can't, but when you do find something you can download, it'll say download in PDF or EPUB format. And I usually take EPUB just because it does have the reflowable type stuff. And so when you do that, you can also, another site to get the good ebook stuff is Project Gutenberg, which is here. They've been actually digitizing ebooks, I think, since about 1971, so they seriously know what's going on there. So that is Project Gutenberg. And I guess this is a listener brought up, iBooks can read PDFs natively now. That's an extra nice thing to have, just because anything that you basically want to read now, there's some way to do it on the iPad. So you have ebooks here from Project Gutenberg. Again, you can search for them, find the format that works for you, download it, and when you find something that you want to copy over to your iPad, you can do that in a couple of ways. Once you download the file, what I like to do, just because essentially I'm lazy, is to make I've made an alias of my automatically add to iTunes folder that you can find inside your iTunes folder application. If you put that out on the desktop, anything you drop into it automatically gets dumped into iTunes unless it's an incompatible format. So I've previously downloaded Alice's Adventures in Wonderland here. This is the EPUB version. If I drop that into the automatically add to iTunes folder and then go to iTunes to make sure it shows up in the books area. Yeah, there's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Again, this is a free book from Google Books. Once you go in there and you go to your iPad syncing preferences, when you have the iPad connected, I've got mine here, you can go in here to Books, and you make sure that it's checked for synchronization. There it is, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Once you click Sync, it'll just copy that book right over to the iPad, and then you just unplug your iPad and off you go to read. So those are some pretty basic ways to get books. Again, here we're looking at the iPad synchronization screen, and this is where you come to sync all of your stuff, your movies, your music, your TV shows, and books, as we've been talking about here. It's a good way to keep the content moving on and off your iPad, especially if you've got the 16-gigabyte version where maybe you don't have all the space in the world. It's nice to be able to control what goes on if you're going on a trip or if you're just going out for the day. And I use this quite a bit just to keep stuff fresh on here. But that's basically the iBooks in a nutshell. I know that was a quick little recap, but it's a very powerful app, and I guess the one knock that a lot of people are saying, well, it doesn't have as many books as the Amazon bookstore does, but if you get the Kindle app, or if you get, if you just want to read stuff that's in the public domain, or if you just wait for them to eventually build up their inventory, I think there's a lot of good stuff to read in there, and it's a really handy thing to have. So we'll just minimize iTunes here. And then let's talk about photos. The iPad, in case you haven't noticed, makes a really great digital photo frame. You can get pictures on it in two different ways. One of them is to synchronize with your photo library, which you can do on this Photos tab. And it doesn't matter if you have a PC or a Mac. You can synchronize a folder of photos on your hard drive, or you can synchronize photo albums with dedicated photo apps like iPhoto, as we have here. Or if you're on the PC, Adobe Photoshop Elements will also let you sync albums and whatnot. So what you do to sync your favorite photos, you would just find them here, mark the albums that you want to copy over to the iPad, just click the sync button, and then you have all that data optimized and transferred so you can show off your photos when you're running around town with your iPad in hand. And another way to get photos on the iPad is to, you can save them out of your email as well, which comes in really handy too. Say someone's emailed you some photos of, some pets. Pets and kids are always big photos to save. When you have a photo in your email, what you can do is just press and hold on that for a moment. You get a save image or a copy button, and you can choose if you want to save the image, and it'll just put it right into your Save Photos album on the iPad's Photos area. And then once you get that, you can show it off too. You don't have to call up your email. You can just pop open the Photos app, and there it is. So that is a couple of ways to get photos on here. When you are, once you get a lot of photos, when you want to show them off, a lot of people like to do slideshows. Now here's what the photo album's screen looks like on the iPad. You get these nice little stacks of photos that Apple's sort of designed to make them look kind of jauntily casual, but they're really well organized. And so you can see all your photos here that you've synced over. And if you wanted to do a slideshow of a certain batch of photos, including music that you have on your iPad, all you have to do is open an album, tap that slideshow button up there in the corner, And here you have all the options for presenting the slideshow. You can choose to have music or not. And then they've got a few different transitions here, depending on how you want the photos to transition from photo to photo. You can get just basic Hollywood dissolves, or you can do the fancy origami one, the folded paper that Apple was promoting in one of their commercials. So that's how you would start a slideshow, and then you basically just have to hold the iPad up so everyone can see it. If you don't want to hold the iPad up, you can also get a AV cable from Apple, and that shows you, I think it's about $50, and I think there's some third-party ones that make it, but it's basically either a component or composite cable that you can plug the iPad into the back of your TV and just broadcast the video there, which is good if you've got like family reunions or parties where you're showing your slides off. If you want to manipulate the way the slides go, if they repeat or they shuffle through the slideshow, you can do that in the photo settings, which are in the iPad's main settings screen. Just tap the settings icon on the home screen, tap photos, and then you get these slideshow controls here. So that gives you another degree of control over the presentation of your photos. So, and here is the, while you're in the settings, if you're poking around, haven't noticed it before, the picture frame option. Now this is a cool little thing. It's basically when the iPad's lock screen is on, say you've got it in the charger, it's sitting there just recharging its battery, you can actually turn it into a digital picture frame like those ones that you may see for sale in stores. iPad can pull double duty as that, so when you tap the picture frame settings here, you get all of these different controls for which album you want to show, when the iPad's at rest. Do you want it to zoom in on the faces, if it recognizes faces, and shuffle, all of that controls that you can have on your photos here. When you are ready to have your iPad slideshow, it's ready at rest, you just have to press that flower icon down there on the bottom by the slide to unlock thing. And once you tap that, it starts the slideshow. You can tap the screen to pause it or get out of it. But it's a nice way to have the iPad do some work even if you're not using it, just to turn it into that digital photo frame. So that's one of the features I kind of use a lot, too, just because it reminds me of places I've been when I'm on book deadlines. So moving on, it also does movies, videos, all of that. This screen here is showing the on-screen controls for Glee fans out there. Yes, that is a screenshot from an episode of Glee. And here, when you start watching a video, the controls will usually fade away after a couple of seconds. If you ever want to get them back because you want to pause the video, you want to adjust the volume, go back, rewind, or put it to full screen if it's coming out in letterbox version, just tap the iPad screen there and it brings these controls back to the front, and then you can manipulate the video any way you want. And finding videos, again, like finding iBooks, is pretty easy. Apple makes it very convenient just to tap the iTunes Store icon on your iPad's home screen and pop right in there and download things for $2 or $3, whatever you want to pay money for. Here is a shot of the video section of the store with the TV shows for Mad Men fans. I guess that's coming back at the end of the month, and so they are selling previous seasons, so you can get all caught up on the show there. So again, like buying books, you get little previews. You can see ratings and what other people thought about it. If you decide you want to go for it, you just tap the button to download it, and it will copy it down. You can download things on the iPad over a Wi-Fi connection or download them to iTunes on your desktop and then sync them over, whichever you prefer. I think for people with 3G iPads, AT&T does have a bandwidth limit on how much you can download at any given time. I think it's 20 megabytes, but I have to double check because they changed it recently. So that will probably prevent you from getting real big video. But again, Wi-Fi is probably going to be your faster, more satisfying option for download anyway. So that's one place to find videos. You can also find them on sites like the Internet Archive if they have videos that have been uploaded by people. Again, this is a lot of movies in the public domain or stuff that's fallen out of copyright. And some of these will have, you can see there on the left, little versions that you can download and watch them. A lot of these, there's a little caveat because they're sort of digitized by third-party sources. Sometimes it's not the coolest AV presentation. You may get an audio track that's out of sync or, sort of glitchy video. But, again, it's free, so, it's another option for finding stuff out there. A lot of people will use third-party conversion tools, and probably Handbrake is the one that gets the most attention. That is a program that you can get. They have their website here that you can download the program for. It's an open-source app for Windows and Macintosh and Linux, and what it does is it lets you convert DVDs, all the video on DVD, into a file that you can play on your iPad. They used to just automatically decrypt commercial DVDs, which is illegal technically, but and they took that out of this particular version. But for people who know what they're doing, there are ways, and it's this whole sort of gray area of copyright. But that's a lot of people will use DVDs just to rip their own stuff. They're like, I bought it, I'm going to rip it, it's mine. So what have you. And if you don't want to rip DVDs, or say you've got video from a camcorder that you shot, or somebody sent you some little video clips, you can also save them if you have QuickTime on your computer. This is a little movie I shot of my rabbit getting lost under a towel for 10 minutes. And if you open the QuickTime player, they have these save options here, and you can choose to save this. They have iPhone and iPod things, and you can go here. So this lets you save certain video types, which will make it, once you put it in iTunes, compatible with your iPad. If you do happen to import something into iTunes that is not compatible with the iPad, or getting messages about it, or if you just want to make it smaller because it's a huge video and you don't want to take up all of that space on your tablet, if you go into the into your video library within iTunes and just select a clip, there is a Create iPad or Apple TV version option. And if you select this on the video, it'll make a version of that same clip. It'll dupe it and then make a copy of the clip that's optimized for whichever device you pick. And so iPod and iPhone users can also make little tiny movies for themselves that won't take up a lot of space. So this is a nice little thing that's built into iTunes that a lot of people may have overlooked because you're all into the music and digitizing your tracks. But speaking of music, that's another thing that the iPad can do for you. It's a really great flat jukebox, and you find all of your iPad or your iPod on the home screen. And when you want to get in there and play some music, you can. Let's see, lost my place here. You can make your own playlists on the iPad, which is really great. And you know, if you downloaded a bunch of stuff and you just want to mix it up because you're sitting there and the thing's sort of playing radio for you, you can create a playlist here. There's a little the little plus button that I think has become the universal Apple symbol for make something new. If you click that while you're on the iPod screen, then you can have a chance to name this playlist. The keyboard pops up very nicely, lets you type it in, and then you can add tracks to it. If you just show all your songs, just tap the name of the song that you want to put on the playlist, and it will automatically add it to you, and you can go through all of your library here. When you're finished, you just tap the Done button. And then if you wanted to delete the playlist or change the songs on it or even add more songs, you just edit the playlist here. And when you're done again, tap Done. So it gives you a little bit of music control. And when you get out there with your iPad and you're actually using it as an iPod, playing along, you can see all of your music in these different views, the overall music library, and then down at the bottom of the screen you'll see it's got the familiar iPod conventions of dividing stuff up by songs, artists, albums, genres, and composers. And so you would just click any one of these buttons to see all the music sliced and diced in that particular way. So that's a nice way if you can't remember who did something, but you know the name of the song, or if you just want to look for composers, if you're into classical, it's a nice way to sort of parse your collection. Here's album view, which gives you lots of albums. Yeah, I do have a little Glee obsession. I went to college with the guy who created it, so I feel kind of attached. And then when you are actually playing an album, you can get this Now Playing screen if you tap the little record album cover that's on the bottom of the sort of overall iPod music screen. Tap that album, it turns you into this Now Playing screen. And so this is actually pretty handy. This gives you all of your music controls here, similar to what we saw on the video screens. And if you just tap the album cover, this will come up. You can see it's got the play, the pause, the forward reverse, you can sort of scrub through the music if you want to grab that little time bar, move it to the part of the song you really want to hear. Down in the corner here is the track listing thing. So you can, if you want to see the other tracks on this album by name, if you just click that, it'll flip it around, and then you see all of the tracks here. You can also make a playlist by clicking the Genius button, and it will try to find songs that are similar to the one that's currently playing, just if you're really into a certain vibe. Apple's got this algorithm which sort of looks at all your music together, try to find the stuff that sounds really good together, and then it'll automatically generate a playlist, which sometimes is really surprising how fun they are. Sometimes they're a little off. One note, if you don't have a whole lot of music on the iPad, it may say that it can't find enough songs to generate a Genius playlist just because there's not enough similar stuff there. So I guess it's your incentive to load up your iPad with even more music. So if you love music, here's how you can see all the tracks on an album. If you really like to have the iPod function playing all the time and you wanted to get to the music controls very quickly, you can actually program the iPad's home screen, or the home button rather, to automatically bring up the iPod controls when you double click on it. So to do that, tap the settings icon on the iPad home screen, then tap General, and once you get into these general controls here, just tap the one for home, and as you can see here, double click the home button for, and then you can pick the function that you'd like to assign that double click to. So iPod's one of them. If you really like to search stuff, you can make it be search, or if you just want to go to the main home screen, you can also set it to double click if you're like 5 screens deep into apps. That'll automatically take you back to home, so it's a nice little shortcut that they've built in. When you've made playlists or downloaded music on the iPad when you're out and about, you can have all that get back to your iTunes library when you sync up the tablet with the computer. It'll transfer all your purchases back, so you don't have to worry that they only exist on the tablet. And any playlists you've made, you get the chance to sync those back, so your creative work there is not lost. So that's the music function on there. It's for people who've had iPods since they came out in 2001. A lot of this stuff is probably really familiar, but Apple has sort of incorporated it into the overall iPad scheme of things. So when you get done with music and you've exhausted all of your video and your books and all that, the Maps app is another cool thing that's on here that even if you don't particularly care about cartography, or if you travel all the time and you want to find out where the places you're going, the Maps app is actually really handy, and it can do pretty much everything that the one on the iPhone does, except it's bigger. You can actually see what's on these maps much more clearly because you've got all that beautiful iPad real estate. So here, if you wanted to look up a place on a map, you just go to the home screen, tap the Maps app icon, it'll open it up. When you have that search button selected there, just type in any address. I've actually typed in, this is the address of the New York Times, where I work 3 days a week as the production editor at the New York Times Book Review. So I figured, well, you'll see how this shows up on the map. So if you type in an address there, and then just tap it to go search, it will pinpoint your location. And as you can see, it actually says the New York Times building there below the red pin. And when you see addresses pop up, if you tap the little eye, it'll spin the box around. It'll give you more information about that place. The little icon of the white guy and the orange circle, if you tap that, that means there's a Google Street View version of this, which is actual photographs of the location. And if you tap that, you can get a 360-degree view of the street that you're looking at, just to get a little idea of what's around there, how it looks in real life. It's sort of a nice feature. That's not available for all locations, but a lot of your urban areas do have it, so it can be really handy if you're looking for the good Indian food place on the block. So that's what it looks like when you find a location there. Here you can have different map views. If you tap that little down here in the corner, you see this little peeled up part of the map. If you click into that area, it sort of dramatically, peels back the map, and it shows you all these different views of the map that you can get. So classic is your basic, cartography, random alley, lines on paper. If you choose satellite, you get a satellite camera view of the same location, which is really cool because you can zoom in and see the street in intimate detail. Another one you can do is a hybrid, where it will overlay the street names and points of interest on top of that satellite map to kind of combine the classic and the satellite. This is a terrain view, which in New York doesn't work too well unless you're in Central Park because it's basically a lot of flat concrete, but you can see the parks, and you can see a little piece of Central Park up there where there's some raised elevation. But this is probably obviously better out in places where there are mountains and hills and actual topography. So, and then if you also wanted to, in that little area, you can have it show traffic patterns. And this is very handy if you live in an urban area and have to commute. If you do, you have my sympathies. But this will show you, based on these red, green, and yellow lines, what the traffic currently is being reported in the area that you're in. And the red obviously means that it's a little jammed up, if not standstill. Yellow, it's moving but slowly, and green, supposedly, everything's good, or at least better than red and yellow. So that's a nice feature as well. Obviously, if you've got a Wi-Fi iPad and you're out driving, you're probably not going to have as much fun with the maps as someone with a 3G iPad who can stay constantly connected to the Internet and see all of this stuff in real time. But the other thing that the Maps app can do is also give you directions if you need to get from point A to point B. And so to get that, just tap the directions button up there, type in the addresses you want to leave from and get to, and then once you get all that information filled in there, the iPad will calculate the different ways you can get there. And as you can see from this blue bar on the bottom, you have car directions, you have public transit if you are in a place where there's public transportation available, and you have a little walking man here, which is your directions for walking on foot. And it'll give you an estimated time to get there, and you can click the start button to have it do a turn-by-turn direction sort of thing, or you can also, if you have chosen the public transit one, if you click the little clock there that will appear if you have the mass transit one chosen, it shows you train schedules. And I know a lot of people in New York had no idea that the trains actually have schedules, but apparently they do. And this is one from the number 2 line here. So that is something that can help you plan it. That might actually be more useful for commuter trains and things that are a little tighter to schedule. If you've chosen the one of the other options here, this bar at the bottom will show you your first leg of your trip here. Head southwest on Pearl Street towards Hanover Square. And then you would just tap the arrows down there to advance through the directions, or click the back one to back up if you want to make sure that you did the right thing, or if you can't remember what it said. So here you can also get a route overview. If you click the little lines here on the bottom of this bar, if you click on that part, you can see the overall view of the route, and you get just so you can make sure that it's actually where you want to go. And so there's that. And when you click on each particular direction, you can see the route there going. Yeah, here it'll show you this little chunk of it. Like if you click on step 6, it shows you that you're walking right there. It pinpoints that part on the map. So if you're out walking, doing a city tour and someplace you've never been before, this could actually be sort of handy. If you are out in the country and get lost, there's actually a built-in compass in the iPad. And to get to that, just tap the little location button, which is up here. If you tap that twice, it'll turn into the little compass here. And this is a, it's a very basic compass, and you may get a thing on your screen saying you need to calibrate the compass, and you do that by moving the iPad in a figure 8 motion. And then once it gets calibrated, then it'll show you your directions here. And here's the train map where it actually comes in kind of handy. But might be sort of a large pocket compass option, but it's very kind of cool just to sit around and play with, too. Again, if you are on a 3G network and can have room to run. So looks like we're back to books here. So that's basically some of the things, the 5 different categories that we talked about of stuff. A very quick overview again. All of it's explained in much more detail in the book. And there's additional information in there as well. But if you've just bought an iPad, still trying to figure it out, or if you're on the fence about getting one, maybe these are some things that you can sort of think about as you sort of make that decision if you want to spend more time with the iPad and see all the other stuff it can do besides read books. Or, if you're on the fence about buying one and should I get this or the Kindle, maybe it'll help you decide. So that's basically it in a nutshell.
Hey, Jude, thanks for that great tour of the iPad. I know I learned I had to turn away from the webcast and try a couple things out while you were talking. so that's pretty cool. I'm just curious, what's your favorite thing to do on the iPad?
With me, it's probably video, just because, there's so much great stuff, and I don't have full cable, and so if I just wanted to get something a la carte, like download a episode of The Daily Show or something, I'll just download it and watch it there, and you can really watch anywhere because the iPad's so portable. Prop it up in bed or take it out on the deck. So I use a lot of video for that. And the iBook stuff is growing on me. As I mentioned, I work in the book review by day at the New York Times, and we're surrounded by stacks and stacks and stacks of actual books, and one gets very used to the old school product. So I was a little leery about how the iBooks thing would play, but the more I use it, it's growing on me. So I will admit that I'm not the sort of old purist that I used to be.
I know. I know so many people love e-books, and I keep saying they hurt my eyes after the end of the day of staring at computers, but I've been reading Shakespeare on them and actually really enjoying that. So I'm seeing that people are posting their favorite apps. I really love seeing that because it's hard to hear about apps. And I know someone who plays Words with Friends, too. I don't really know what it is, but I've heard about that. So love hearing about that. Alberto's asking, are there any games that you played, Jude? Are you a game player?
Oh, yeah, actually, Alberto, I will admit I have an extreme obsession with Angry Birds, which is not the super, most high-tech 3D graphics or anything, but it's seductively simple. If in case you haven't, people out there haven't heard of it, it's basically this sort of weird tale of these birds who have a nest, and these evil green pigs come and eat the birds' eggs, and the birds go all kamikaze on them. And so the setup's, a little intense, but then when you get into the gameplay, the birds are actually turning themselves into these catapults, and they're trying to knock down all of these structures that the pigs have set up to try to protect themselves from these really, really cheesed-off avians. And the game teaches you a lot about trajectory and catapult, and also on structures, like where the weak points of structures are, because you have to figure out where to aim this bird at to get it to bring down the castle that will squash the pigs. So it's also a good tension release. I've had a really bad day. If I go and take out some pigs, it makes me a little calmer. But that one, and I think there's a version of it for the iPhone as well. That's also pretty popular in the App Store. But you get into it, and they just released an update to it too, where they've added more levels. So I felt kind of glad that I paid $5 for this, and I was about done with it, and then they added more onto it, so it was cool.
That's funny. Yeah, that one, I think that's the #1 game. I played that the other day. I've been playing an idiotic game called Veggie Samurai.
Mm-hmm.
But at least it's not violent.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff on there, and there's one that I think it may just be iPhone at this point, even though you can play it on the iPad. It looks better on the smaller screen. It's called a Robot Unicorn Attack, which they set it to an Erasure track singing always, and I think Adult Swim, the guys the cable cartoon channel that do Robot Chicken and all of that, so they're a little kind of cynical postmodern, but you're basically this cybernetic unicorn jumping from level to level, and if you miss, then your head flies off, and it's sort of kind of bizarre, but if you grew up in the music of the 80s, it's kind of got a lot of kitsch value.
Oh, that sounds fun. That sounds a lot of fun. So I have some questions that people have asked during the webcast. And way back when you were first demonstrating iBooks, Liz asked, can you turn off the page turn in iBooks?
Oh, you mean that dramatic little pull the corner thing and have it flip over? I don't know if they have an exact setting for that. Another way to turn the pages is to just tap either side of the margin, and it will flip it. It doesn't have that slow, dramatic thing with the corner. But I tend to bob through, but just by hitting it, if you need to back up, I'll just hit the inside of the margin on the other one, and it advances the page pretty quickly.
Okay, that's good to know. And then Alberto was asking again how you got the screenshots from the iPad, and he said, did you use a key button combo to take the screenshots?
Oh, yeah, actually, Alberto, glad you asked that. The iPad's got a built-in screen grab function, if you have it on the screen that you want to photograph, all you have to do is quickly press the home button and then press the sleep-wake button at the same time. You'll hear a little camera shutter noise, and it snaps whatever is on the screen, and then it will dump that screenshot into your saved photos album, which is how we get all the screenshots for iPod Touch and iPad books. They're all taken directly on there. So, yeah, it's a quick key combination. So just press the home thing, hold down home, press the sleep-wake button like it was a camera shutter, and just make sure you don't linger on too long of them because it will turn the iPad off. But once you hear the little camera shutter noise, you know that it's taking the shot, and you can just go find it in your photo albums.
Okay. All right. That's a great thing to know.
Yeah, it's also great for taking screenshots of stuff on your iPad and emailing them to friends to make them jealous.
Okay. And then let's see. We have a question. Can you change the font on those sticky notes to something other than Comic Sans?
Oh, you know, good old Comic Sans. Actually, I have to look that one up myself because they had just updated this, and I have not had a chance to play with it proper. I've got my iPad right here. Let me just look real quick to see if there is a setting, because I know Comic Sans is not a big favorite of a lot of people for various reasons. But, yeah, if you want to hit me with another question while I look at this, I can come back to that one.
Okay. So a lot of people were asking this. How do you make that add to iTunes alias?
Oh, if you, it's just like making an alias of any folder here. If you go into your iTunes application folder, which I can remember where I put mine, so if I show original.
Yeah, I always have to search for mine, too.
Yeah, it's a, yeah, this is a thing that they've added in recent versions of iTunes, and you just find it inside the iTunes Music folder, and so when you find it, just make an alias like, you know, any other folder you want to make an alias of, and then you can drag it out to your desktop, and then it will go ahead and it serves as a hot folder, basically. So, you know, I made the alias, put it on my desktop. If it can't, for some reason, add anything to iTunes, if it's an incompatible format or something, it will just put it in this not added folder. But most of your common formats, it will go ahead and pop stuff in if it's, you know, music files or the accepted iBook files. The photos you do sync through the Photos tab there because it's hitting your photo albums on your you have on your computer.
Okay. Okay. So you just locate the folder. You make an alias, or
yeah.
I guess if you're on a Windows PC, you make a shortcut to
yeah,
it.
Yeah. So you go into your iTunes program folder and go in. I think it might even be down inside iTunes Music, or you can also search for it, you know, on your you know, with your computer search function. And then once you find it, just click it and make either a shortcut or an alias, and then drag that alias or shortcut to wherever is handy for you to have. The desktop's probably the easiest place for a lot of people who move stuff into iTunes frequently and don't feel like going up to the file menu to choose Add to Library and doing it menu style.
Okay. That's really good to know.
Yeah, it's actually saved me a lot of time, and plus you're not digging around in menus. You just, you know, throw stuff in and it goes.
Yeah. So here's another question. How do you share apps across iPads when you have more than one in the family? I hear people asking that about iPods, and I guess it's the same.
Yeah, I think if they are all, if everyone's working through the same iTunes Store account, I've got, I just have the one iPad, so I have not had to wrestle with this one as much. But I think you can have up to 5 people logging on to the, you know, with the same iTunes account. You know, it's like with the music sharing too. If someone buys a song in the house, as long as you have the iTunes Store account, you should be able to sync through that. Some people will, if you've got multiple iPads and you want to keep the applications separate, will make different iTunes libraries, which you can do. There's a function in there for multiple libraries that lets you keep your music and all your stuff separate. But you should be able to, as long as you're on the, you know, the same account and all that. And then, you know, with the home sharing feature too, I can't remember off the top of my head if it will let you just grab apps, you know, if you're on different computers from machine to machine. But I think as long as it falls under the you know, the rules of the iTunes Store for sharing, then it will let you go ahead and use those. Okay. So that was kind of a vague answer. They've changed the iTunes policy so much that I'm a little foggy on just how many things you can put on it now. And I haven't found a default alternative to Comic Sans yet, so I hope they don't stick us with that forever.
So yeah, I've heard the same about the iTunes. And someone's asking, do you have any good stylus recommendations for the iPad? Do you ever use a stylus?
I personally don't. I know the fingers, despite all that stuff about oleophobic coating on the screen, you definitely need to carry a cloth around to keep it shiny. But I think Pogo might make one. There's two companies that make styluses that will work with the iPhone. They have to be made of a special conductive material, so the screen will actually register it. So I think Pogo makes one. I can't remember the other company, but if you just do a search for like iPhone stylus, they'll pop up. And it is another alternative, especially if you don't want to get your screen all fingerprinty, or some people just feel more comfortable using a stylus to point. But I believe the ones that were made for the iPhone, since the iPad's basically the expanded iPhone, I think it's the same screen material.
Okay. And then Ian was asking about the microphone. Does it require close proximity for good voice pickup?
I think with microphones in general, the closer you can get, the better. It will pick up to some degree, but then you've got a lot of background noise and stuff to interfere interfering with what you're saying. And third-party options may, bring you a little, better. But it's not bad. It's sort of, like the, whatever your built-in thing is, it'll be good enough. But definitely the closer you can get, and just if there's any way to minimize your background noise, just to have your voice pop and stand out against whatever might be behind you, would be probably optimum.
Okay, all right. And then going back to the books, Glenn was asking if anyone had used the iPad to flip through a reference book, like an O'Reilly book. And before you answer that, I'm just wondering, what would you recommend for reference books? People don't read those in the usual way. I saw that there's a good search feature now in iBooks, but is that what you would use for reference books?
Oh, you mean using the iBooks app?
Yeah.
For reference, I would probably, what I play with the dictionary that's on board, is fine. If people are looking for like encyclopedias and bigger things, I haven't used a lot of it. A lot of times if I'm doing reference, I tend to just bounce out to the web and look at one of the sources there. Wikipedia always again kind of dodgy for some things, but usually Google's kind of become the biggest reference book. I don't know, there are some reference collections that are coming together in terms of apps and things. People are sort of doing these 5-in-1 and 9-in-1 iPad and iPhone apps that you can download that are tapping basic sources, and I think they're like $2 or $3, and you get like 5 books, Mythosaurus, and if you wanted to have something handy on the iPad, if you don't have an internet connection, God forbid, it could be good for sort of basic, if you're doing some writing there, say you're writing a report in Pages or whatever, and you need reference there without an internet connection, one of the apps there may be helpful.
Okay. Now, you're talking about writing. I find writing on the iPad to be very awkward, but I know a lot of people use the keyboard. Do you also use a keyboard?
Oh, with the an external keyboard, I don't. I like the fact that you can get them, and there's one that I think Apple makes that's even a combination charging dock keyboard that you can have the iPad upright and it charges, and then you have a full-size keyboard underneath. I think if you're a touch typist or someone who is really proficient at typing, the iPad keyboard would drive you up the wall because it's you're typing on a piece of glass there, and it's it can be and if you're used to home row and the little bumps and all that, it's just very disconcerting. For me, I'm a 2-finger typist, and I find that the keyboard is it's easier to work if you've got it in the horizontal mode because it's almost a full size, not quite. and you kind of have to get used to the conventions of the, where they've got the punctuation and stuff on a different row, so you have to hit the button to go into numbers or whatever. If I was writing something really long-term, I would probably definitely get a keyboard, and you can also use wireless keyboards with them too, if you don't want to have a thing with a cord that you're dragging around. But yeah, if I ever have to, write the Great American Novel on the iPad, I would probably get a physical keyboard. But for now, for like 3-line emails and web surfing, the on-screen one is fine.
Okay, good to know. I pictured you writing all your books on the iPad when you talked about writing.
Yeah, no, I still cling to the old laptop.
Yeah. So I forgot. I was going to ask. Alberto was asking another great question. What's the one feature you'd like to see added to the iPad that it doesn't have yet?
I am torn on that one. First generation hardware is always, sort of the first draft. Probably the video camera, like they've done with the iPhone 4, because the screen on the iPad is just so beautiful, and video really looks great on it, and to be able to do video chat with somebody on it would just be amazing, I think. And so I know that will probably be a feature in a later edition of the hardware, because we always have to keep improving the hardware, I guess, if you make it. So the camera would be nice. The other thing I would probably hope for would be just a way to connect USB devices. I know there's the camera connector that people have figured out where you can plug in a USB keyboard with that, and certain other things besides cameras and memory cards will connect to it. But, just to plug it into a printer and print normally and not have to get some app that, takes you around the bend to be able to print to a printer. That would be nice, just to have, something on there that you can connect it to, that's not the Apple Dock connector.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's the first I've heard that you can connect things to the camera port. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they've got I think it's a $30 thing from the Apple Store. It's a little, I think they call it the iPad Camera Connection Kit. But it's a little device that snaps into the dock connector, and you can either put the cable from your camera in there and load your pictures directly onto the iPad, or if you've just got want to pop out the memory card, there's also a card reader adapter for it too, and you can put in your secure digital card or whatever and have it import the photos that way. And then once you get them on the iPad, you can sync them back to your photo app when you connect it to your computer.
Nice. And Wendy is asking a good question. Can you connect to the web from Europe without anything extra?
I think if you on Wi-Fi, no problem. You just have to get on the network. In terms of 3G, I think that'll be up to your carrier and whatever rate plans. I know AT&T's got data roaming plans and whatnot that are astronomically expensive. But if you're just bopping around internet cafes in Europe and it's all Wi-Fi, then the Wi-Fi should work for you there.
Okay. And then, Michael, I'm not really sure what you mean by that question. Can you give us a little more input on it? He's asking, Jude, can you get a little more involved with video? So I don't know what he really means.
Video on the iPad, or?
We'll have to wait and see if he adds more to that.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time, though. And before we go on, I did want to say we do have a discount code. I forgot to put the information in there. Marcy or Mary, maybe one of you could add it to the chat room. The code is forecast, the numeral 4, CAST, all one word. And you can use that to get a 40% discount off books, including all of Jude's books, or 50% off discount off ebooks when you purchase from O'Reilly.com. And it's not good on Safari or O'Reilly UK, I'm afraid, and I'm sorry about that. But it's one of the best discounts you can get on O'Reilly.com. So if you want to get Jude's book, which I have at home, and there's the code. So feel free to grab that. We'll also send it out in the follow-up email that we send you with the link to the video, etc. So, and what Michael said is about the video. He wants to rip his own DVDs. I don't think you can do that on the iPad.
Not direct. Well, you can do that on your computer with various applications designed to convert video from DVDs to files that you can play on the iPad. Yeah, we touched on it briefly, I think, in the movies video section of my ramble earlier. But basically, if you've got DVDs, either they're from your camcorder or some commercial stuff, there are programs out there that will let you convert those DVD files to iPad-friendly little MPEG-4 files. Handbrake is probably the one that most people use. Again, legal gray area because you're technically violating the copyright protection on the disc, but a lot of people will say, well, I bought this and I paid for it already and I want to do with it what I want to do. So that's your decision to make. Handbrake is probably the big one. It's handbrake.fr. I believe it's on the server in France. A lot of DVDs, if you buy them, will have an iTunes digital copy function as well, which gives you a little code, and when you put the DVD into your computer, you can download a perfectly legal, no questions asked digital version of that same movie that you bought on disc to watch in the living room, and you can sync that over to your iPad as well, just as you were syncing any other movie or video file. The book has a few programs in there mentioned of apps that are designed for Windows and Macintosh to convert video from different sources to iPad-friendly stuff. So there's some information in there about doing that if you really want to, load up your iPad with video for constant entertainment.
Okay. Well, I think we're about out of time. We better let people go. I know a lot of people have to hurry off to their next meeting or appointment. So, Jude, thank you for the great tour of the iPad. I can't wait to go check some things out.
Oh, yeah, and thanks to everyone who came to the talk, too. This is my first webcast ever, and so I'm a little nervous. It probably showed, but it was fun, and just to hear feedback from everyone in the room, about their questions and stuff was great. So I hope you all have fun with your iPads.
Thanks, Jude, and I second that. Thank you, everyone who joined in and all the information that you shared. It was a great crowd today. I hope you'll join us again. And like I said, if you have a chance, take our post-event survey. We really appreciate your feedback. It helps us a lot. And we do randomly select 3 survey takers to win ebook of your choice. So you'll have a chance for that. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to count 10 and then close out the room. So goodbye for now.
Thanks, y'all.